Welcome, everybody, to the Entrepreneurial Collective podcast, where we tell it like it is, and it is like we tell it. I'm your host, as always, Dickie, and really excited about this week's episode. Today, I want to talk about preparing yourself and your family for a life of entrepreneurship. That's right, folks. I want to talk about preparing yourself and your family for a life of entrepreneurship. You know, the whole purpose of this podcast is really to have a platform, a space to discuss all of these different aspects of being an entrepreneur. I mean, I know personally on my journey, the amount of times I encountered new challenges, new things, that were going on, and really didn't feel like I had a space to connect with or talk to, of people who could relate and understand them. Well, that's exactly why this whole podcast, this whole movement, this whole inner circle has been created. And a lot of times there's a lot of motivating, content to share, ideas, selling strategies, closing techniques, all that great, wonderful, sexy stuff. And then there are some other spaces that require some time and energy. And, this is one of them, preparing yourself and your family for a life of an entrepreneur. You see, it all sounds perfect in theory when you're starting a business and you've got this great idea and you're going to serve the world through your business, and you're going to be able to do that while also generating, profit and revenue that you had never thought of before to afford yourself, your family, your loved ones a life they had never dreamed of. I mean, all of these things are the attractive ideas behind why we take these actions and why we take on this extraordinary risk, stress, etc., for these extraordinary returns. So I recently this week was having some conversations with some people inside of the inner circle, and they were good conversations, good dialogue that we were having. And so I thought to myself, this would be a great opportunity to address some of these things that we were talking about and to address them with all of you, the public, because I know there's a lot of you out there who are experiencing things like this. And I thought it would be a great opportunity to give some value back to all of you and just shine some light in on my personal experiences and what I've gone through and how I've adjusted and adapted to successfully navigating this journey thus far. You have to forgive me. I love my coffee. So I'm going to tell a couple stories here. When I first started my business, I remember I had no mentor, right? I joke often and I say this whole journey for me, this whole adventure of achieving these successes that I have has been via the Braille method. It's been a, touch and do by feel kind of thing. Didn't have a ton of direction, didn't have mentors, and sure didn't have things like the Entrepreneurial Collective where I could find communities that would be able to offer all kinds of support and literally fast track me through so many aspects of becoming an entrepreneur. Well, one of them was a gentleman that I remember when I was selling cars. This particular individual, he was a trainer. He was a sales trainer that was at the store a couple of times. Always enjoyed his energy, his content, what he had to share. And, I started to follow him and see how he had a lot more than just, hey, I'm here to train and develop salespeople. He was a philanthropist. He was into doing a lot of really amazing things and giving back to the world. And he was one of the examples that showed me, reminded me, supported what I had heard, that, it is about giving. And you could see that, a lot of successful people, after they've achieved certain levels, they really understand that a true joy is to be able to give back. That's one of my true joys, here inside this group, inside of the Entrepreneurial Collective, most definitely inside of the inner circle. It's seeing new entrepreneurs going through their challenges, knowing those challenges all too well because I'm all too familiar with them from my own journey, and being able to offer insight and ideas and concepts and strategies and adjustments and techniques and game plans on how to navigate them smoother, because a lot of the times there's so much work and there's so much we're looking to accomplish as entrepreneurs. When there's aspects to sort of expedite that process and get through things quicker, it's invaluable. And again, this is exactly why we are here. So I remember reaching out to this individual, and when I reached out to him, literally, this business that I was starting was just literally starting. Like, I may have converted a few deals. I still didn't even believe myself that I was a business, that I was independently working for me. And, I thought I was a part of a roller coaster ride, and I was waiting for the ball to drop because, again, I had nobody explaining to me how to go about this journey to ensure it was successful. And I'll never forget, we were at a restaurant, and this is a beautiful thing. We were at a restaurant because I did a smart move, and I want to share this with all of you. One of the smartest things you could ever do is take a millionaire to lunch, right? You take a millionaire to lunch. Successful people who understand how to navigate a lot of the challenges you're going through, their time is very valuable and it's very expensive. It can cost you upwards of thousands of dollars simply to capture 60 minutes of our time. And so I remember hearing a long time ago, and I remember thinking to myself, hey, it would make sense if I offered to take somebody for lunch. I might be out a couple $100, but I too would enjoy a good meal with them, and I would potentially be able to capture 60 to 90 minutes of their time, and that was invaluable. So that's what I did. I'd take this individual to lunch, and I remember we were sitting there, and one of the first things he said to me, he says, okay, I understand what you're looking to do. It's exciting. You obviously seem very excited, he said to me. And then he asked me, he said, why are you doing it? And then he just looked at me. And I looked back at him, and he looked back at me. This was a weird 60 seconds, and he smiled. But he said to me, why are you doing it? And then he pulled out the pepper shaker, the salt shaker, whatever else was on the table. He picked a few things out, and he said, let each one of these represent your reason. And he's like, what? So why are you doing it? And then, again, I'm trying to understand what he's looking for me to say here. And so he gets me rolling. He grabs the salt shaker and he says, money? And I'm like, yeah, duh. Yeah, absolutely. He's like, okay, so we'll call the salt money, right? I said, yeah, okay. And then he goes, why else? And I'm kind of sitting there blank, and he's like, fame. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, well, yeah, I want to help everybody. I want to be well recognized. I want to come into a room and everybody's like, yeah, hey, Alan, and I'm like, well, I don't know if I'd call it fame, but some form of recognition. He looks back at me. He's like, fame? I'm like, yeah, okay, call it fame. So that was the pepper shaker, right? He goes, what else? And then I was sitting there quiet and, because I was trying to understand where he was going. And then he said to me, he's like, are you doing any of this for your family? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, at the time, I was married. I did not have any children yet, right? And I'm like, oh, yeah, my family, my wife, right? And he's like, okay, good to know you're thinking about her. And he made a little joke with me. And he grabbed a sugar packet, whatever it was that was on the table. And he says, okay, let that represent her. He's like, and there was a few more we got into, but then he looked at all the items and he said, okay, put them in an order for me. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like, put them in the order. What's most important, And I was starting to move them around, and I initially had put, the salt shaker. It's like, money, right? Because we're here to make dough, right? I'm this young guy. I've come up in the automotive industry. Everything is about selling, closing, commissions, so I put that there. And then after, I was like, oh, well, my family, of course, the wife and there. And then I had, that fame thing and whatever the order was. And he looked at me, and this was one of the greatest things he explained to me. He says, you're in the car business, right? And you're familiar with the car business. I go, yeah. He says to me, he's like, how many sales managers, how many general managers, leaders in the dealership do you know that make a ton of money, but they're divorced? And then things got quiet. And I was like, whoa, yeah, I do know. I knew quite a lot, that industry. And I would say any sort of high pressure sales arena environment does produce a lot of this. And he went on to explain to me, it was like, well, because a lot of those guys, they did what you did, Al, right here. They put money as the number one thing. It was the most important thing. Money, 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 money. And I'll never forget what he said to me. He goes, do you have any idea what it's like? I'm like, what? He's like, let me paint a picture for you. You're in the dealership. You're making tons of money. You're making $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 a year, whatever the number is. You're making money that is incredible to you. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, and then it's Tuesday night. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, well, or Friday night, he says. I'm like, okay. And he's like, well, it's your night with the kids. And then I'm like, what? He's like, well, you're divorced, right? Money was the priority. That's where you had put everything. And so you obviously pouring all your energy into there, took your hand off the wheel. That was your wife. That was your family. I know you don't have children yet, but you understand the idea. That's what a lot of these guys have done. Now I want you to go inside yourself, and I want you to picture yourself pulling into that driveway to pick up your kids from the house you used to live in, right? And then I want you to picture looking through the mirror, and inside the window, or not the mirror, the window of the home. And inside that home, you can see there's your ex-wife, right? Your children's mom. And there's the new boyfriend, partner, who now lives in the house, holding one of your kids in the air with a big smile on his face because they're all waiting for you to be picked up, but they get along really good. Maybe that's the guy that didn't make money the number one thing, and that's why your ex-wife fell in love with him. You get the idea, right? And I was like, okay, enough of this story, right? And some of you might be thinking, oh my God, I know that story too well. Maybe some of you are experiencing that right now. It's okay. Today's the first day of the rest of your life. We're not here to focus on where you've been. We're here to focus on where you're going. But my point is, he really got me dialed into understanding that, and I was young at the time, that if I had went with a pursuit of money, if I was saying to myself, being this entrepreneur was going to be led by money and this is going to give me all my happiness, what he was doing is based on his experience as a mentor, as an older individual who had gone through all these phases. He was pointing out to me, this is not the best approach. He also went on during that conversation to explain to me that when you put your passions in the right alignment, everything can come together for you. You can have your cake and eat it too. So what I want to point out to you here is I want you to, and make a note, right? Like when you're looking to prepare yourself and your family for a successful entrepreneurial journey, right? You want to know why you're doing it. You want to have it prioritized and know what the end game is. Now, is pouring, we just defined it. The definition of entrepreneurship, of being an entrepreneur, is taking on exceptional risks for exceptional returns, right? So we understand there is a financial win here. That is part of the benefit of doing this. But we also understand laws inside of the Entrepreneurial Collective, and we understand if you chase money, you never find it, right? You chase love, money finds you. What I ended up realizing in this conversation with this gentleman who, was like a mentor to me, definitely in that conversation, is that I had to see the big picture. And my big picture was I wanted to be able to have a loving family that loved and respected me. And second to that, I wanted to be able to provide for that family everything and anything they could possibly ever need. I wanted to be able to insulate their lives, insulate their futures, and produce enough revenue that I could afford my family and my loved ones and my children choice to what schools they could go to, choice to what clubs and sports they could join, choice to having access to things that sometimes many people don't get or have access to due to their financial constraints. So for you, as we're talking on this episode here, I want you to ask yourself why, right? I want you to get your why dialed in, right? You might have the cure for cancer and you want to bring it to the market to cure everybody of cancer. That's amazing. I love it. I'm all for it. I just want you to also understand, be very careful on what your leading pursuit is. Hey, listen, there might be somebody out there with the cure for cancer who is not even interested in having a wife, children, or a family because the passion to cure cancer and get that out into the marketplace is so strong. That is their life. That is their be-all, end-all. Okay, if you are that clear on it, move. I'm with you. I'm behind you. Wind at your back. Let's get it done. If you're somebody, though, who has a very passionate cause, an amazing solution to the marketplace, etc., but also is still looking to have those things, you really want to dial in what is it that is going to be most important to you, right? Because, again, a lot of people who get caught chasing money, they end up getting to a certain point where they have achieved that, but then they look around and there's nobody else to share or enjoy that achievement with. Okay. So I want you to prioritize why you're going to be going on this journey, because this journey is going to have its rocky ones, its peaks and its valleys. Never forget that. And it's in the peaks, everything's easy. When the bank account's flush, when the customers are blowing up your phone, there's nothing better. It's euphoric. It's when you're in those valleys where things have gotten quiet. Maybe the market has shifted or adjusted to a bit of a degree, and now you need to really dig deep, take new actions to find new opportunities. And the fuel that's going to allow you to do that is going to be your why. So get it dialed in and have it in priority. Family, taking care of them, providing for them everything that they could possibly need or want in life, financial benefit, which is going to help support that lead example, the family, et cetera, et cetera. Prioritize exactly why you're going on this journey and be very clear on that understanding, because again, when you have that priority and that reasoning in line, it's going to make all aspects of this journey, both the peaks and the valleys, very much so easier to manage, okay? Another thing, when you're going on this journey, okay, it all sounds good when you're around the dinner table saying, honey, or, talking to your buddies, I'm going to do this. I'm going to blow this up. I can't wait till I'm picking the color of the Lambo that's going to be in the driveway. All that stuff is amazing and it's fun. But there's a lot of you that when you're done talking about that, realize I don't even have enough room on my credit card to execute on the first strategy. So some of you, and I've mentioned this in past episodes, you might be considering an entrepreneurial venture or journey. You might be at a point where you've been talking about this and you're looking to take the plunge, right? This is exactly why you're here, why you're watching this. Well, I want to give you that second tip. The second tip is I want you to know exactly what your life costs, okay? When you're taking a step like this or an action like this, if it was that easy, everybody on planet Earth would be doing it. There's a reason 95% of the planet have jobs. They have not woken up to the fact that their mere employment is evidence of their value to the marketplace, and they just simply have been pacified, right? Instead of being encouraged under the understanding that they have a skill set that the market will pay for, instead of digging, hunting, and discovering how to utilize that skill set, offer it up to the marketplace, abide by the laws we teach, understanding when value exceeds price, business gets done, and be responsible for creating their own revenue, they've been pacified by companies, other opportunities that say, hey, don't look to do anything exceptional. Don't look to do anything great. Right? No, just sit right there. We'll give you a fraction of what you're worth. We will give you enough money to pay your bills, pay rent, order pizza on the weekends, and then you can die one day. We'll do that. Just relax. You don't want to go out to this scary place called the market and make 5, 10, or 20 times what you're worth. Folks, that's 95% of the people on planet Earth, and that's what they exist in. They're called jobs. Remember what I told you they stand for? Just over broke, right? Okay, let's keep it moving. So when you've identified this, when you've popped out of it, woken up out of the matrix, and understand that your mere employment at the current position you have is evidence that you're capable of delivering value to the marketplace and abiding by a series of laws that will allow you to execute and start your own company, that's freedom. And that's where your next step to moving from these companies that have pacified you, that have made you lazy because they threw less than what you're worth in front of you to get you to not look for better opportunities, to just come and work for them. When you're looking to move on from that, it's imperative you know exactly what your life costs. All right, here's the principle, folks. Ignorance breeds anxiety. Okay, and this is really important for your entire unit, whether it's just you or whether it's a family, you, your better half, your spouse, right? Ignorance breeds anxiety. When you talk about taking actions to start these entrepreneurial ventures and go on these entrepreneurial journeys, there's going to be times where you may not have revenue coming in. And this is going to make everybody in the camp nervous. How are we going to pay the bills? How are we going to do this? Settle down. You're not going to spontaneously combust and die. But where you're going to find a little bit of comfort and a little bit of security is by being in a state of knowingness, knowing exactly what your life costs, right? And knowing some contingency plans on how you can meet those costs. I've said it many times in the past, there's 24 hours in a day. If you currently are at your job, right, and you're really set, you've got the plan, you're ready to get inside of the collective, learn the laws, the infallible laws that will make your success predictable so that all you have to do is march forward and be obedient to them. Well, then the way this journey is going to work is you want to learn how to live skinny, right? As you're building out this company, this business, this venture, you want to learn how to live skinny. What that means is you need to learn exactly what your bare minimums are, right? Food, shelter, okay? Keep everyone alive, keep everything afloat, and find out how much money that is. Because what you do is as you build your business, you can always have a backup or contingency plan. Now, I know I always say anybody who's got a plan B is not committed to plan A. But what I mean by this here is if you had an off month in the process of building your company and you had to go drive Uber, right, for a few hours a night, for 6 hours a night, whatever, in order to pay rent that month, to fight another month, that's the game you're in. Early on in the infancy of starting a business, you're looking to fight another day. You view it as a month-by-month game because in doing it that way, you wake up one day, 6, 12 months later, and you realize, oh my God, I'm fruitfully employed by myself, creating money on demand. This is awesome. But I want to prepare you. You see, what I do is I proactively anticipate all the million negative things that could happen to me, and then I have contingency plans in place. I'm prepared for a nightmare to hit, so it doesn't rattle me, it doesn't throw me off course, and it doesn't have me run back to what was comfortable, that shitty job that I thought made me happy. I'm preaching to a lot of you right now. So you want to know exactly how much money it costs to live your life. Know that number, and then know that as you're building out this business and taking these actions, how you could supplement your income if necessary on a month-by-month basis to get through. I mean, I remember when I was building my business out, if I had to jump in a car and deliver pizzas to make ends meet, I was willing to do whatever. The point was I was committed and ready to die for the dream. And am I ever glad I did so? Because life has been amazing for the past 15 and change years I've been on this journey. Okay, so you want to prioritize why you're doing it. Second thing you want to do, you want to know exactly what your life costs. All right, these are things that you need to anticipate. Again, many of you that are going to benefit really greatly from this are the couples, are the entrepreneur, the cowboy, cowgirl, right, whose significant other may not be as wild and ready for adventure as you are. That's an entrepreneurial spirit. So I'm giving you these tips because this is really how you're going to keep your camp at peace. When it's just you, right, and you're that maverick, then, hey, you'll sleep in your car. You don't care if you have to pitch a tent. You're going to get it done. I love it and I appreciate it. I just wanted to give an opportunity to speak to some of these other aspects where there's other people involved, and we can't necessarily expect that your better half, your children even, people in your camp, in your household, are all going to be as courageous as you are. Many times as leaders, you're the one who has the vision of where it's going to end up, and it's your job to just make sure they're comfortable each step along the way until they get there. If they had the same vision you did, we'd all be living in a tent crushing, and we wouldn't need to pay attention to any of this. In conjunction with that, you got to maximize every minute of time. Every minute counts. So just don't play games with yourself. At the end of the day, 24 hours in every day. You don't need to sleep 8 a day. The program you watch at night, you don't need to watch. Whatever time-wasting activities you're doing, you need to cut, right? I call them RPAs, revenue-producing activities, especially in the infancy of your business. Remember, the whole idea here is you're going through this grind for a season so you can have an abundance of revenue and, most importantly, the most valuable thing, time on the other side of it. When you put the work in early and you sacrifice all of these things I'm talking about, right? There's no watching The Bachelor, folks. There's no watching the hockey game or the football game every night. Not in this season. But when you sacrifice all those things, then when it comes time to watch the game, you're watching the game on your 80-inch TV, having dinner made for you. Fill in the blank. My point is you have time, you have money, you have resource, you have ability, right? But we're in the season of building it all. So that stuff doesn't necessarily exist. You need to make sure that all of your time is being poured into this machine. It's like a snowball, right? It starts off really small and it takes a lot of energy to keep it together and keep rolling it, etc. But once it gets to a certain size, you hit a hill, that thing will roll out of control and grow faster than you could ever imagine. So you want to make sure you're maximizing your time and don't have any dead time. Every single hour of your day should be a revenue-producing activity, and anybody sleeping 8, 10, and 12 hours, give your head a shake, all right? There will be time for that later, although I'd argue you could sleep when you're dead, just my mentality. Here's another important one, and this is sort of where I'm going to kind of bring this thing in here. I've made a lot of references. I've talked a lot about your camp, right? A lot of people who are looking to go on these entrepreneurial journeys and really and truly want to prepare themselves and their families for what to expect. You want to sit down and have a conversation with all parties involved. Now, this is where I'm going to have a little story for you of my own personal experience. Today, very blessed, highly favored, very thankful. I've got a beautiful wife, an amazing partner. I've got two amazing kids, right? I mean, and 10 and 12 years old. This journey started out, they were in my wife's tummy, all right? Actually, they hadn't even been thought of when it had started out. But here's what my point is. When I started this journey, right, and we didn't even have children yet, there was a time where I had said to my wife, okay, look, this is what I'm doing, right? I'm starting this company. I know I can help the world. I know I've got so many different ideas, thoughts, concepts, techniques. I'm utilizing them, and I have been for years inside of the dealerships I'm working at. They work. The people I hire, they're clay. They have no experience. I'm training them my methods. They're crushing. All of the evidence is there. It's time to have faith, jump out and build it, and that's what I'm doing. Well, my wife is a fan, thank the Lord, thank goodness. And she's like, you could do anything, right? And this is amazing. And I know a lot of you have partners like that as well. I know there's a lot of you out there that have wives and husbands who are very encouraging and telling you, yeah, you can do it. I believe in you. I've seen it. So let's go and get her done, right? They're very supportive. Well, my wife was like that. Again, though, I want to point out to you, if everybody was the maverick, if everybody had this courage, this adventure, this entrepreneurial spirit in your camp like you did, hey, that would be easy. And maybe you do. And if you do, this is amazing. I love it. But I know just through experience, and again, these conversations I was having inside the Entrepreneurial Collective's inner circle this past week, that that's not quite the case. And the majority of the time, there's one of us that is that entrepreneurial maverick. And sometimes it's difficult because we're looking for everyone to be positive and rosy goggles and thinking everything's going to work out like we are, when that's not their reality. And so sometimes you have these clashes, and I know I'm speaking to a bunch of you right now. Well, back to the story. I start the journey, right? Now, at the time, my wife was working, had a career, and she was, leaving the house every day and doing that. And I've said it in the past, how there's no money in the kitchen. I was in the kitchen. I was building out my programs, my methods, all the different actions I was going to take on how I was going to make this business a success. Again, I had no mentor. I was doing it all by feel. So I was just thinking, hey, what should I try next? But that's what I was doing. As I'm doing that, I'll never forget. 2 weeks. It lasted 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. My wife comes home one day and she's a little quiet, little somber, right? Comes into the house. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Hey, right? Great attitude, me, because the world's perfect, even though I'm not producing the massive paychecks that I was producing while I was working and I was inside of the dealership, because I've started my company. I'm in my kitchen. And a couple weeks have gone by and, she knows this. And anyways, she comes in and we get into a conversation, and the conversation was her sharing with me. She had a list, and on the list was a bunch of different bills and expenses. And it was like it looked like an NFL coach's game plan script or pad, of what plays they were going to run next. Meaning she had all these notes and stuff about how to save money. Now, I remember saying to her, she was, I'm going to make up an example, but she was like, if we bought bulk rice for this much money, we could save this few dollars, and then this could help this and this could help that. And I'm built different, right? I remember saying to her, I was like, honey, there's laws to being successful. And one of them that I believe anyway is you cannot save your way to prosperity. Our problem is not the cost of things. Our problem is a simple one. We don't produce enough. I'm here to solve the production problem, because that's where I believe the solution to all of these problems exists. Well, again, I'm the cowboy. I'm the maverick. Everything works out in my world, right? She's not quite seeing it that way. And the reason I'm bringing up this story is we had, I would say, maybe an uncomfortable moment there. And I am encouraging all of you to proactively set expectations with your camp. Don't necessarily do what I'm about to share with you. This is why I'm sharing this story. I'm trying to give you a little bit of information so that you can proactively anticipate a moment like this and handle it differently. But I remember having a conversation with her, and she was very stressed out, and it was in turn kind of bringing some stress to me. And I remember saying to her, at the time I had my wedding ring. I remember taking my ring off, and I said, "You have a choice, honey. You have a choice." And I put the ring down on the table, and I said, we had just moved into a house. It was a house that I had poured everything I had or owned or created into and had purchased. And she was my girlfriend at the time. But I knew she was the one. But I remember taking this ring and I said to her, listen, you have a choice. You can take that ring and you can pack your stuff and you can leave. Or I can put my ring back on, and today's the last day you bring any type of stress into my world. I fight dragons out there every single day, meaning I don't even know how I'm going to build this business out, honey. All I do know is the passion I have inside of me to bring to the marketplace. What I'm bringing to the marketplace is so strong, I'm willing to die on it. I'm not doing any of this 9-to-5 stuff. I'm not doing anything but what is in my heart to do. And we all know that's what passion and purpose feels like, right? And this is why I'm sharing the story with you. Well, I was saying all this in a very, very passionate manner. And let me tell you, it was kind of uncomfortable. But my wife, thank goodness, said to me, "Please put your ring back on," to which I did. Now, at this moment, I realized I had no official plan. I hadn't done the things that I'm talking to you about on this episode to bring a bit of peace to her, to give her an idea of what to expect so that ignorance wouldn't breed anxiety. So not knowing what's happening next wouldn't make anyone or her, myself, nervous. So upon having that moment, I sat down and I said, listen, I'm going to give you a bit of a tighter game plan so you'll know exactly why this is going to work and how it's going to work. And that's when I did all of these things that I'm talking to you about. I sat down with her and I said, listen, I'm doing this right now because if our children that we haven't thought of yet ever want to go to Harvard or any type of school that costs $1 million a year to attend, I'm stroking the check for it. I'm doing this because I want you to be liberated and have the options to do what you want to do with your life. Maybe you want to be that mother who's glorified in the home, raising her children. And I'll tell you something, she did take that role on. I mean, my kids never ate out of a can. Okay. This is something that made me very happy in hindsight. Again, why I went through this journey. That was an aspect that was important to me. But I also was explaining to her to have the options. You want to raise our children? Great. You want to do anything. You want to bring back the pet rock and start a company selling pet rocks. I am doing all of this to afford us as a unit, as a team, chance and opportunity. That is the purpose behind making these moves. I then explained to her that that was the motivation behind it and this was something worth fighting for. I then explained to her, this is what our minimum monthly obligations are to fight this journey another day. I said, based on you currently working and making X, we can do this. And if there's a shortfall, I had a contingency plan in place of where I could put together the difference if I needed to make some extra money while I was building this thing out. You see, I did all of these things that I'm discussing on this episode with my team, with my camp, so everybody was prepared and understood what to expect on this journey of entrepreneurship. Now, what ended up happening was simple. My wife now was going to work every day, not worrying about tomorrow or 10 years from now, because I explained to her the success of what I'm doing will take care of all of that. Instead, I said to her, I want you to just enjoy being a part of this journey, this vision, because we're guaranteed nothing in life, and let's do it together knowing that it's worth fighting this fight. I sat and reminded her, I said, the position you're at right now, where you show up to 9 and 5, do you feel it pouring out of your soul and need to be there? Is this your purpose in life, or are are you just there for a check? We had a very honest moment. She's like, no, this is like, it's for money. I said, okay, then go to work each day, each week this month, and do it for the money. That's going to help us build out this vision I have that will deliver the passion, the purpose, the resource, the money, the time, and all of that in the future. We need to do this for a season, and this is how we can get there. I laid it all out clean for her. I let her know exactly what the money was for us to fight another day. I let her know, or I informed her what I was doing on a daily basis to grow the business as fast as possible, to generate leads and clients as fast as possible. I was showing her the business plan that based on this much action, I could expect this much result. Off of this much result, I could expect this much revenue. Off of this much revenue, I can fight another month. And once I had that all laid out for her, she was at peace. It turned from this anxiousness, this nervousness, to an exciting moment of her saying, how was your day today? Did you make those calls? Did you get in front of those people? What was your closing percentage? Was it what you planned it to be? That's awesome. And it became a very motivating and encouraging series of steps that I was taking, we were taking, and we were both experiencing that really poured energy into this mission of this entrepreneurial journey. Folks, I want you to understand something. There's a lot of you out there that are currently in situations like I just described, where people in your camp, you and your wife, you and your husband perhaps, you have the conversations constantly. Every night you're sitting at home having a few extra cocktails because that's the only way to sedate yourself from the existence that's driving you crazy. And don't feel any way about it. You're 90% of the planet out there. I'm only yelling at you and preaching this message because I know you were not born to work, pay bills, and die. I know that idea, that thought you're having is possible. I know that the laws and the strategies and the process taught inside the Entrepreneurial Collective will show you exactly how to get there. I know that the life that I'm currently living and loving is one that you deserve and have in your hands right now. You have the abilities. It's just about understanding what actions need to be taken and then taking them. I understand that it can be stressful, but I want you to also understand that this is not a movie. You don't need to find a bottle and rub it 3 times, have a genie pop out to grant you a wish so it could happen. It's about understanding and preparing yourself and your family for a life of entrepreneurship and understanding that we do it different. One of the things that I want to point out to all of you that I pointed out to my team, I said to my wife, I'm like, how are you enjoying this 9 to 5? You know your bills are paid. You know you can order a pizza on the weekend, but do you see it a way to stroke a check for Harvard? How's Harvard getting paid for if the kids you haven't even thought of yet want to go? How does retirement look? Have you ever pulled a calculator out and did the math on can we even retire? There's many of you out there right now that are looking and saying, I'm going to have a mortgage until I die. There's a lot of you out there that are like, the mortgage I just signed up for has got me paying it till I'm 70. And I mean, who knows I'm even going to live that long? It doesn't make sense, which is why I want to encourage you to think different. If it was easy, the mass majority of people on planet Earth would be doing it. But do you want to know what's easy? Being pacified by an organization who knows you have the ability and is able to blanket you with comfort, meaning a guaranteed paycheck, benefits. What are benefits, man? Go pay and get your teeth cleaned. Benefits and a weekly paycheck that drops in your bank account every Thursday night at midnight, and they get to purchase you, own you for a fraction of your value. So listen. This is what I want to double down on today. Remember what I'm saying here. Watch this episode again because I'm sure there's a lot here to take in and it would be of great value for you to watch it 10 more times. You want to know why. Prioritize exactly why you're going to go on this journey. You've got a choice, folks. You can live this life of knowing what's happening next Monday to Friday and hoping you live to be 110 to enjoy it. Or you can go on the offensive and say, you know what? I could die tomorrow or I could die in 50 years, but I'm doing it my way. Hashtag Frank Sinatra. Number 2, you're going to be able to manage all these things knowing exactly what your life costs. Create a bare minimum. Live skinny. What do I got to do to fight another day? This is not the rest of your life. This is not how you're going to live the rest of your life. This is how you're going to live for the next 30 days. And when you're done that 30 days, you're going to do another 30 days. And if you keep going with that 30 day by 30 day mentality, one day you're going to wake up and you're not even going to recognize your surroundings or the number in your bank account. I want you to remind yourself to be honest with yourself. You need to maximize all of your time, okay? There's 24 hours in a day. Believe me, the stories I could tell you of sleeping 3 hours a night, still being a dad, still being the lead salesperson, still being the accountant, still being the janitor, still wearing all of those hats in the name of fighting another 30 days. And I did them so I can do what I want, when I want, how I want, with whom I want today. Hashtag we are the Entrepreneurial Collective. And I want you to talk with all the parties involved, everybody in your camp. If it's just you, then you know what the answer is. This is the talk. Have it with yourself. But if it's a spouse, a partner, a wife, or a husband who's the steady Eddie, the turtle versus the hare, the one who needs to know everything's going to be okay, what's automatic, what's the guaranteed paycheck, the way you're going to get that person to be comfortable is do the first 3 steps I had just mentioned and then double down and explain to them exactly why we're doing this. We're doing it for the bigger picture, and you need to explain to them your commitment. When I said to my wife, I'm dying on this hill, this is what it is, and if you want to run, I understand you can go. I gave her a choice. Again, thank the good Lord. She said, no, I'll ride with you. She had faith, and that's why today I enjoy the blessings of taking her on those vacations, showing her the bank balance, and allowing her to do what she wants, when she wants, how she wants, with who she wants. Everybody wants to go to heaven. Nobody wants to die. Be willing to die. You will go to heaven. It is that easy, and that is the entrepreneurial journey. Folks, I'm hoping this has been a blessing to you, preparing yourself and your family for a life of entrepreneurship. These are some conversations that we're having inside of the collective that I thought would be valuable to share with all of you and just give some of my personal experiences with them. I want to encourage you to check out this link here, folks. This is where all the answers are. There's a ton of content out there, and my business personally, it has been built online in front of the internet's very eyes. So you don't need to wonder who I am, where I come from, or if any of this is real. There's a countless set of examples, and inside this collective is where you're going to find a number of other individuals who used to think like you. Now they think like me, and everybody's flourishing. Folks, that's my episode for you. I want to thank you again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the notifications button. We've got a ton of content coming out here. 2024, it is coming hot and fast. We're changing the world one entrepreneur at a time. I want to thank all of you for watching and all of the comments and support you've had. Keep them coming, and I will look forward to seeing you on our next episode of the Entrepreneurial Collective podcast. Make it a great day, everybody.